Let's talk about the top 5 receivers in this year's draft that potentially could wind up Las Vegas Raiders. Stay tuned after the intro.
When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing: just win, baby.
This is Raiders Allegiance with Lunatic Raider. Welcome to the dark side.
What is the deal, Raider Nation? Welcome to another episode of Raiders Allegiance with yours truly, Lunatic Raider. Today we're going to dive into the top 5 wide receivers of this year's NFL draft that potentially could land with the Las Vegas Raiders at the 22nd pick. There is a lot of good, talented wide receivers in this draft, from Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, man, the USC, the list goes on. But we're going to just talk about the top 5 that I consider the top 5 in this draft that either they could potentially fall to us at 22nd, or we might want to make a move up or move back. Depends on what's there at 22nd when we pick. But there is a whole lot of good, talented, big, fast, skillful wide receivers in this year's draft. So we need a number 1 and a number 2. Maybe the number 1 we get in free agency and the number 2 we fill in the draft. I think that'd be a perfect scenario to go ahead and fill out our offensive front with the skilled players at wide receiver that's in this draft. So let's go ahead and start off at number 5. George Pickens, wide receiver, Georgia. He's a junior. His measurables are 6'3", 190 pounds. His attributes is good height with long arms, very good play strength. He trusts his hands and has a wide catching range. Physical and competitive player, has some twitch with the ball in his hands. This is a solid receiver, but this is who I consider to be number 5 out of these receivers in this draft. He potentially can fall to us at 22nd, which I think he would, but do you also look at the fact does he fall into the second round? If that's the case, maybe you feel that Josh McDaniels and them can trade this 22nd pick and move back and still get Pickens and also pick up extra picks in the process of trading back. Potentially you can have that, but we have to see. We don't know what these other teams are on their draft board. Do they have wide receiver up there or defensive tackle, corner, safety, lineman, quarterbacks? We don't know. We can speculate all we want as far as needs, but a lot of teams might draft for best available over needs and vice versa. Some might be so desperate that they go needs over best available. Who knows? It all depends on the teams ahead of us, what dictates and trickles down to us at 22nd. But yeah, George Pickens is at number 5, wide receiver of Georgia. At number 4, my receiver pick in the draft as far as the top 5, my number 4 receiver I say is Jamison Williams out of Alabama. The reason being because of the injury that he suffered in the national championship game with the ACL. I think his stock is going to drop. How far does it drop? And what teams are willing to make a risk at drafting him in the first round? Potentially he can go into the second round because of the injury. But when he was healthy, he was considered like the top receiver in this draft. So number 4, Jamison Williams, Alabama junior, 6'2", 189 pounds. His attributes: excellent athlete with game-breaking acceleration and long speed, good with the ball in his hands, good overall route runner, has the body control to be able to consistently start and stop on his routes. He's a solid receiver. We've seen him play all year. The dude is outstanding, good speed. But here we go with Alabama wide receivers. We already came off the Ruggs fiasco with, it wasn't a fiasco because of his ability or his progression. It was because of the choices he made outside of football. We already know how that ended up. Now we're out of the receiver. That's why we're talking about top 5 wide receivers in this year's draft to try to replace that. Jamison Williams would be a very good replacement at that position for us if he's around at 22nd, which possibly could happen because of the ACL injury, like I mentioned previous. But it's kind of iffy. You gotta gauge the range of where that injury is gonna force him to be drafted. Does he fall to the bottom of the first round? Are teams gonna just skip over him because of the injury? Or does he fall to the second round where it'll be value to go ahead and get a receiver of that caliber in the second round? Maybe the Raiders trade back and go for it. You know what I mean? Get a couple of picks in the process of trading back and then get Jamison Williams as well. Who knows? It all depends on what Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler, what's on their draft board. Who do they have ranked high? Is wide receiver, which we know it is a need, and also can fall in the category of being best available depending on what's there at 22nd. So Jamison Williams, number 4 on my list as far as the top receivers in this draft that the Raiders could possibly look at and could land in our lap, you know, if he's drafted. Number 3 on my list is Garrett Wilson, wide receiver at Ohio State. 6 foot even, 192 pounds. He's a junior. His attributes include very good athlete, has very good burst and long speed, can take any catch or handoff the distance, able to create yards after the catch, good overall hands. He's not the biggest dude, but you possibly could use him like Deebo Samuels of the Niners. You can use him out the backfield. You could mark him outside, you know what I mean, as being the number 1 receiver or number 2, it doesn't matter. Our slot is taken with a Renfro, but this is a dude that's all around. You can use him all over the field, from handoffs to receiver. So he got solid hand speed. Man, that's another good dude. Where does he go? Does he fall to 22nd? Who knows? Okay, size measurable, 6 foot even, 192 pounds. Solid dude. Not your biggest of wide receivers, but speed and quickness is there. Hands is there. So yeah, number 3, Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Ohio State, is one of my choices for the top 5 wide receivers in this year's draft. Number 2 wide receiver I have on my list is Drake London of USC. He's a junior. He's 6'5", 210 pounds. This is a big wide receiver. His attributes consist of course, with his size 6'5" and 210, he's a jumbo size wideout. He has a rare catch radius. He's outstanding toughness in the game. He's durable, very quick off the line and at the top of his route, and dominates on 50-50 balls. That will be a key factor in being in the red zone with Carr to give him another target besides Waller. That is a 50-50 ball type athlete at receiver. Can you imagine 6'5", 210 Drake London with Waller, our tight end? Man, that's two 50-50 ball type catching receivers that we can deploy into the end zone when we're in the red zone. And then you got Renfro working the inside of that, finding the soft spots in the coverage and sit down and get the pass as well. So it'll make a defense have to think a lot about who they need to focus on. You know what I mean? Would it be Drake London, Waller, Renfro? Who do you focus on? You go 2 tight end set. Now you got Foster Moreau. Now you got 3 big receiving targets that you can go to in the red zone. That's something you might have to think about. Will Drake London fall to us at 22nd? That's a whole different story, because your size and weight, those measurables is something that you don't teach. You can't teach 6'5" and 210. That's just what you're born with. But you can teach route running and catching and, you know what I mean, all that other stuff coming in and out of your breaks. But size and speed, can't teach it. That's something that you might have to think about. But I don't think that kind of athlete will be there at 22nd. Maybe that's one of those receivers that McDaniels and Ziegler might think about moving up to go get. If that is high on your draft board. If you have Drake London at receiver high on your draft board, you do that. You do that. If he falls to an area where you feel you can move up without giving up too much, you do that. That's something you would have to really seriously pay attention to, because like I said, the dude is durable. You know what I mean? He's durable and he's big. So that's a target that Carr could use. And like I said, our kryptonite is the red zone. So that's something that you also would have to think about. So my number 2 receiver in this year's draft is Drake London out of USC. Now, my number 1 overall receiver, I don't think this dude is going to fall to us. I think he's going to be the number 1 receiver taken off the board in this year's draft. And that being this monstrous athletic freak, Treylon Burks, wide receiver out in Arkansas. He's a junior, 6'3", 225 pounds. His attributes consist of he's a smooth athlete. He has outstanding size and strength. He hauls in a lot of quick hitters, swings, bubbles, and slants. He has the ability to get vertical and tracks the ball very well. I don't see him falling. And I think he'll be gone too high for us to even move up to think about. So, man, that's it. I don't think Treylon Burks is going to be there at 22. If he falls to us, hey, you grab him. Plain and simple. If he falls down far enough where you have just about the right amount of capital to trade to move up, but not just selling the farm, you go get him. This is one of those athletic freaks at wide receiver that you go get. You know what I mean? And he will, at 6'3" and 225, he can body corners out the way. You know what I mean? For balls. You know what I mean? So Treylon Burks is my number 1 receiver in this year's draft, but I don't think he'll fall to us at 22nd unless some miracle happens where all the 21 teams ahead of us get a brain fart and start drafting linemen, quarterbacks, and safeties and corners and not worrying about receivers right off bat. Who knows? Or somebody decides to take Jamison high up, that can bump things. I don't know. So we'll wait and see. That's my top 5 wide receivers of this year's NFL draft that potentially can land with the Las Vegas Raiders. I'd like to thank you guys for watching another episode of Raiders Allegiance. I'm Lunatic Raider, but before I let y'all tiptoe up out of here, I need y'all to do me a solid. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and knock the hell out of that notification bell so you can be notified of all the content that I release and breaking news. Once again, thank you for watching Raiders Allegiance. Lunatic Raider, I'm out.